Anita, I was scrolling through Reddit last night, just doing my usual late night rabbit hole thing, and I saw this post about Bitcoin halving. Everyone in the comments was going crazy, like it's some massive event that's going to change everything. I don't get it. What is Bitcoin halving, and why is everyone acting like it's Christmas morning?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Anita, and I make finance make sense. And today, we're diving into a term that gets a lot of hype in the crypto world, Bitcoin halving. And Joe, to answer your question, no, it's not Christmas, and it's not a discount sale where Bitcoin suddenly becomes half price. The term halving can sound misleading if you're hearing it for the first time. In simple terms, Bitcoin halving is an event that happens roughly every 4 years, where the reward given to Bitcoin miners, the people who validate and add transactions to the blockchain, is cut in half.
So miners are basically getting a pay cut? Why would anyone celebrate that?
That's a good way to put it. Yes, miners get fewer Bitcoins for their work after a halving. But here's the key. That pay cut is part of Bitcoin's design. It's a built-in feature to control the supply of new Bitcoins entering circulation. You see, unlike regular currencies where central banks can just print more money, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. 21 million coins ever. That's it. No more, no less. And halving is the mechanism that slows down how quickly those coins are released into the market.
So it's like they're making Bitcoin more rare on purpose?
Exactly. Think about gold. There's only so much gold in the world, and mining it gets harder over time. Bitcoin works in a similar way. When a halving happens, the amount of new Bitcoin created every 10 minutes drops by half. That's scarcity. And scarcity is a big reason why assets can become more valuable.
Okay, but I still don't see how that affects someone like me. I'm not a miner. I'm not running some giant warehouse full of computers.
True, but it affects you because of supply and demand. Less new supply is entering the market, and if demand stays the same or grows, the price tends to go up. Historically, after each halving, Bitcoin has seen significant price increases over the following year or two.
Like, how significant are we talking?
Let's take a quick trip back. In 2012, when the first halving happened, Bitcoin's price was about $12. Within a year, it had jumped to over $1,000. In 2016, before the halving, Bitcoin was around $650. By late 2017, it had surged to nearly $20,000. And in 2020, before the third halving, Bitcoin was trading at roughly 8,600. About a year and a half later, it hit an all-time high close to $69,000.
Whoa! So we're talking serious growth after these halvings.
Yes, but I have to say this. Past performance isn't a guarantee of future results. The market could behave differently next time. Still, those patterns are why halvings are so closely watched by investors. It's not magic, it's economics, less supply, same or higher demand, and the price often adjusts upward.
And when's the next one?
The next halving is coming up soon, within the next year. And that's why you're seeing so many people talk about it on Reddit, X, YouTube, everywhere. For some investors, it's like a countdown to a potential opportunity.
So in simple terms, miners get less, Bitcoin gets scarcer, and prices might go up if demand holds.
Perfect summary. That's halving in a nutshell. And the key for you and for anyone watching is not just understanding what it is, but figuring out how to position yourself before it happens. So, Joe, now that you know what a halving is, let's talk about why it matters. Not just to miners, but to everyday investors like you and me.
Right, because on paper, it just sounds like the miners are the only ones directly affected.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Miners are the gatekeepers of new supply. When their reward is cut in half, the flow of new Bitcoin into the market slows down. Imagine a faucet pouring water into a bucket. If you turn the faucet halfway down, The water level rises more slowly unless someone starts drinking it faster.
And the drinking is the market buying Bitcoin?
Precisely. And here's where it gets interesting. Historically, demand hasn't slowed down after a halving. If anything, it has accelerated. Media coverage increases, new investors start paying attention, and the hype builds. That mix of lower supply and higher demand is what has led to some truly eye-opening price moves in the past.
Give me numbers, Anita. I need numbers.
Let's break it down. In 2012, Bitcoin was around $12 before the halving. About a year later, it peaked at roughly $150. That's a 9,500% increase. In 2016, it sat at about $650 pre-halving. By December 2017, it had surged to nearly $20,000. That's more than 30x. And in 2020, it was trading at roughly $8,600 before the halving. By late 2021, it had reached an all-time high close to $69,000, nearly an 8x gain.
Wow. So even the smallest investment could have turned into something huge.
Exactly. If you'd put just 1,000 into Bitcoin a few months before the 2016 halving and held until the peak in 2017, you'd have been looking at roughly $30,000. And with the 2020 halving, that same $1,000 would have grown to nearly $8,000 at the top. Some people put in much more and walked away with 6 or even 7-figure gains.
That's insane. No wonder the Reddit post I saw was full of people counting down the days.
And remember, these events happen only once every 4 years. So the window of opportunity feels rare. And rarity adds urgency. That's why people start positioning themselves months, even a year before the halving.
Okay, but how do people like me get ready for it without making stupid mistakes?
We'll get to that, Wycombe. But first, I want to say something to everyone watching. If you're interested in building wealth, not just chasing trends, and you want to be ready before opportunities happen, hit that subscribe button right now. Because in the weeks ahead, I'll be walking you through real, actionable strategies that you can start using today to prepare for the halving. And you won't want to come back 6 months later wishing you had.
Yeah, because by then the ship could have sailed, right?
Exactly. The people who benefit most from these cycles are the ones who understand the timeline and take small, consistent actions ahead of time. The ones who wait until after the headlines hit, they're usually the ones buying at the peak.
So these big price jumps we've been talking about, are they guaranteed every time?
No, nothing in markets is guaranteed. But Bitcoin's design hasn't changed. The halving still reduces supply the same way it did in 2012, 2016, and 2020. And as long as demand remains steady or increases, basic economics suggests upward pressure on price.
And I guess that's why you keep stressing preparation.
Exactly. It's not about hype. It's about being in the right place with the right plan before the rest of the crowd realizes what's happening.
So we've covered what the halving is and why it's such a big deal. Now I'm itching to know, how do I actually position myself for it? Like if the countdown has already started, what should I be doing right now?
Good question, Joe. The key is to think of positioning in 3 parts: how you buy, how you store, and how you plan your exit. If you can master those, you'll be ahead of 90% of new investors who just jump in without a strategy.
Let's start with how you buy.
All right. The most common approach, and the one I recommend for most people, hindi inabantua dollar cost averaging, or DCA. This simply means buying a fixed dollar amount of Bitcoin at regular intervals, regardless of price. You might buy $50 a week, $200 a month, or whatever fits your budget.
And why is that better than just saving up and buying all at once?
Because it protects you from bad timing. Imagine if you dumped all your money in the day before a price drop. That would hurt. But if you spread your purchases out, some will be at high prices, others at low prices, and over time, you average out a better entry.
Got it. So that's step one. What's next?
Step 2 is secure storage. Too many people make the mistake of keeping their Bitcoin on an exchange. That's like keeping your gold in a store's display case and trusting it'll always be there. Exchanges can get hacked, accounts can be frozen, or companies can go bankrupt. If you're serious, get a hardware wallet like Ledger or Trezor and store your Bitcoin offline, where only you control the keys.
Sounds like a bit of work.
It's a small effort for peace of mind. Losing your investment because of poor security is far worse than taking 10 minutes to set up proper storage.
Okay, and the third part?
Have an exit plan. I can't stress this enough. Many people ride the wave up, but they never take profits, thinking the price will go up forever. Then the market corrects and they lose a big chunk of their gains. Decide in advance. If Bitcoin hits $100,000, I'll sell 20% of my holdings. At $150,000, I'll sell another 20%, and so on. Lock in wins while keeping some for the long term.
That makes sense, but it also sounds like it could be tricky emotionally.
It is, which is why having the plan before you get caught up in the hype is critical.
All right, so what are the big risks with this halving play?
First, volatility. Bitcoin can swing 10% in a day. You have to be ready for that mentally and financially. Second, timing uncertainty. Yes, halvings have been followed by price rises historically, but it doesn't happen overnight. In some cycles, the big rally came months later. And third, market conditions. If global markets are in a downturn or there's a major regulatory change, it can dampen the effect.
And the myths? I'm sure there's a few floating around.
Definitely. Myth number 1, the price will double immediately after the halving. That's not how it works. The halving reduces supply instantly, but price movements depend on demand over time. Myth number 2, halving guarantees a bull run. No investment is guaranteed. And myth number 3, it's too late to buy now. That's often said by people who wish they'd bought cheaper. But the truth is, if Bitcoin grows over the long term, starting now can still be valuable.
So the play is to start small, protect what I own, and have an exit plan, but also keep my head straight and not believe every hype post on Reddit.
Exactly. And to everyone watching, this is just the start of the strategy conversation. We'll be going deeper into real portfolio examples, timing approaches, and even alternative plays around the halving. If you want to be in the room for those, make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming next.
Okay, Anita, I think I've got the picture now. The halving is like this big scheduled shift in Bitcoin supply. It's happened before. It's been followed by big price moves, and the smart move is to get ready before it hits. But I still feel like there's a lot more to learn.
That's because there is. Today, we've just scratched the surface. Think of this conversation as the warm-up lap before the real race. You now know what the halving is, why it matters, and how to start positioning yourself. But the execution, the fine details of when to buy, how much to risk, and how to react when the market moves, that's where real results are made.
So this is really just the start?
Absolutely. In fact, the most successful investors treat each halving not as a single event, but as the start of a new cycle. They prepare in stages: accumulation before the halving, disciplined holding during the uncertainty right after, and then decisive action when the market momentum builds.
So they're not sitting there panicking every time the price dips a little?
Exactly. They expect dips. They prepare for volatility, and they know their own exit plan before the hype even starts. That's the difference between people who make life-changing gains and those who get caught in the emotional roller coaster.
Sounds like mindset is just as important as the strategy.
It is. You could have the perfect technical plan, but if you can't stick to it under pressure, it won't matter. That's why I always tell my viewers, Control what you can control. You can't control the market, but you can control when you buy, how you store, how you sell, and most importantly, how you react.
You know, hearing this from you makes me feel like I might actually be able to do this without making a mess of it.
That's the point. You don't need to be a professional trader to benefit from the halving. You just need to be prepared, patient, and informed.
And I guess that's where your upcoming videos come in?
Exactly. We're going to dive deeper into setting up your first hardware wallet, building a realistic DCA plan for different budgets, and walking through what to do in the months immediately after the halving. And I'll be showing examples from past cycles, so you can see how different strategies would have played out in real numbers.
That's exactly what people like me need.